Did you think a quiet farmer like Jack was just an ordinary man? Think again. Because what happened next will challenge everything you believe about justice, patience, and revenge. Jack was accused of burning his own barn, but he refused to fight back with anger or lies. Instead, he played the long game, using silence and clever moves to outsmart those who wanted to see him fall. In this story, you'll see how one man's calm patience turned a false accusation into a shocking victory, exposing the lies and pride of the powerful. And trust me, the twist at the end will leave you stunned. You won't believe what Jack's real plan was all along. If you love stories about justice and cunning, hit that like button now, and let us know in the comments. Where are you watching from today? Stay tuned, because what you're about to hear might just change the way you see strength, patience, and truth forever. It was a cold morning when I saw the smoke rising from my barn. I was working nearby, mowing the field. Suddenly, I saw flames licking up into the sky. The smoke was dark and thick. People in the village heard about the fire quickly. They started to come closer. Some whispered, "Did Jack burn his own barn? Is this for money? Maybe he wants insurance money." I didn't say a word. I just watched. My heart felt heavy, but I stayed calm. I knew I didn't do anything wrong. The fire trucks came fast. They sprayed water on the burning barn. It took a long time to put out the fire. When it was finally done, all that was left was a pile of blackened wood and ash. People started talking. Some looked at me with suspicion. Others whispered behind my back. Soon, the police arrived. The prosecutors, the men who want to find out if I did something bad, came too. They looked at me with big, serious eyes. One of them, Mr. Grant, stepped forward. He said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Jack, we believe you burned your barn for money. You wanted insurance money, right?" His voice was full of certainty. I looked at him quietly. I didn't answer. I knew this was just the beginning. The court began that day. The judge, Mrs. Lewis, sat high on her bench. She looked serious and fair. Behind her, the courtroom was filled with people, all watching and waiting. The prosecutor called witnesses. They said they saw me acting strange the day before the fire. Some said they saw me moving valuables from the barn. Others said I was acting nervous. They tried to make it seem like I planned the fire, but I stayed silent. I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just listened. I felt inside that I was innocent. I knew I didn't burn my own barn for money. The court was noisy with questions and answers. The witnesses said what they saw. The prosecutor made his case, trying to make me look guilty, but I didn't speak. I wanted to see what would happen if I said nothing. That day, I remembered something my family used to say. Sometimes, silence is the strongest answer. I kept that thought in my head. I didn't want to give them a reason to say I was guilty. As the court session ended, I looked at the judge. I knew this was just the start. I was ready to wait and watch. I knew my silence was my strength, and I would show everyone that the truth was different from what they believed. That's the beginning of my story. The fire was real, the accusations were loud, but I was calm, I was quiet, and I was waiting for my moment. Because I knew, one way or another, the truth would come out, and the fire I set was not for money. It was for something much deeper, something my family had done for generations. And that story, I would tell in time. For now, I just stood there and watched. Because sometimes, the best thing to do is wait and see what happens next. I sat quietly in the courtroom. My hands rested on my lap. I looked straight ahead, but inside, my mind was busy. I was watching everyone around me. I knew they thought I was guilty. I knew they believed I burned my own barn to get money from insurance. But I was not worried. I had a plan. The judge, Mrs. Lewis, sat at her big desk. She looked serious. She called the court to start. "We will hear the case of the barn fire," she said. Her voice was clear and steady. The prosecutor, Mr. Grant, smiled confidently. He was a tall man with a loud voice. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we have proof that Jack burned his barn on purpose. He wanted insurance money. We will prove it. One by one, witnesses came to the stand. They told what they saw. Some said they saw smoke coming from Jack's barn. Others said Jack acted strange after the fire. They pointed fingers at me and said I was guilty. But I stayed silent. I said nothing. I looked calm. I knew that words could be tricky. Sometimes, silence is stronger than talking. The prosecutor kept talking, showing pictures of the burned barn. They had some pieces of wood and charred hay. They told the court it was all proof of arson, but I knew better. While the court listened to these things, I did something small but important. I moved some of my valuable tools and old family items to a safe place. No one saw me do it. It was my secret. I was gathering things that meant a lot to me, things that showed I did not want to lie or cheat. I also went outside for a moment. I looked at the fields. They were tall and green. I took my mower and made some small cuts in the grass. It was a quiet way to remind myself of renewal, like starting fresh after trouble. Back in the court, the judge looked at the witnesses and the evidence. She listened carefully. She seemed to believe they were telling the truth, but I knew that the truth was more complicated. When it was finally my turn to speak, I stood up slowly. I looked at the judge and the jury. I kept my voice calm and steady. "I want to tell you something," I said. "This fire was not about money. It was part of my family tradition. Every year, we burn a small part of the old barn to clear away rot and shame. My family has done this for generations. It is not for profit or to cheat anyone." Some people looked surprised. Others nodded quietly. The court went silent for a moment. I continued. "I know people think I am guilty, but I did not burn my barn for money. I did it to keep my farm clean and strong. The fire was part of who we are." As I finished speaking, I sat down. I was not angry. I felt peaceful. I knew I had shown the truth, not with loud words, but with calmness and quiet actions. The court was quiet. The jury looked at each other. They were thinking. I saw some of them start to understand. The prosecutor looked frustrated. He tried to argue more, but his words sounded weak now. His confidence was slipping. He was used to winning easy cases, but this time, I had made him think. The judge looked at me and then at the evidence. She seemed to realize that things were not so simple. She made notes and looked thoughtful. I looked around the courtroom. I saw my family sitting quietly in the back. They nodded at me with small smiles. I felt strong because I knew I was telling the truth. The court session was ending. Mrs. Lewis said, "We will take some time to decide. This case is not as clear as it first seemed." I waited patiently. I knew that time would show the truth. I did not need to shout or argue. My silence had spoken for me. As I left the courtroom, I looked back. I saw the prosecutor frowning. I saw the judges thinking. I felt quiet pride. I had done what I believed was right. I walked out into the sunlight. The farm field stretched wide in front of me. The wind was gentle. I took a deep breath. Inside, I felt calm. I knew this was only the beginning. My real plan was still in my mind. This trial was not about winning or losing. It was about showing the truth and keeping my family's honor. I looked at the sky. The clouds drifted slowly. I thought about my tradition of burning the old to make way for the new. I smiled softly. This fire was not about greed. It was about renewal, and I knew that soon everyone would see the truth. I stood quietly in the courtroom. All around me, people looked at me with suspicious eyes. The prosecutors were talking loudly, showing pictures of my burned barn and pointing at me. They said I burned it on purpose to get money from insurance. Everyone believed them. But I didn't say a word. I kept my face calm and still. The judge, Mrs. Lewis, looked at me and then at the witnesses. She wanted to hear everything clearly. I could see the anger and doubt in some faces. I knew I had to be patient. I knew I had to wait. Outside, I had moved some things from the barn before it burned. I had also mowed the fields. It might seem strange to others, but I knew these small actions meant something. They were part of my plan to show the truth without words. I remembered how my family has done this for many years. Burning the old barn was a family tradition. We did it to clear away rot and old stuff. It was a way to start fresh. We never did it for money or to trick anyone. It was just how we did things. During the trial, I didn't rush. I only watched and listened. The prosecutor kept talking, trying to make me look guilty. But I stayed quiet. My silence was powerful. It made them wonder if they really knew the truth. Then, I decided it was time. I raised my hand gently and spoke softly in court. "Your Honor," I said, "the fire in my barn was not done to get money. It was part of my family's tradition. We burned the old to make way for the new. This fire was meant to clear away shame and rot, not to cheat anyone." The courtroom was quiet. Everyone looked at me. I could see some faces soften. They were listening now. They started to understand. The prosecutor frowned. He looked surprised. He thought he had all the facts. But I had shown him I had a different truth. I didn't need to yell or get angry. My calm words and quiet actions had already done much of the work. I knew that my small moves, moving treasures, mowing fields, had helped. These things showed I was trying to clean away the old and bad parts of my life. They were symbols of renewal, not crime. The judge nodded slowly. I could see she was thinking carefully. She knew that sometimes the truth is hidden behind silence and simple actions. She looked at the prosecutor and then at me, and she seemed to realize that things were not always as they seemed. That day, I learned that being patient and quiet can be a strong way to speak. Sometimes, words are not enough. Silence can reveal the real story. As I sat back down, I felt a small sense of hope. I knew I had said enough. I had shown everyone that I was innocent, not with loud words, but with calm and simple truth. And I knew deep inside that this was just the beginning. There was still more to tell, more to show. I was ready to keep fighting, not with anger, but with patience and understanding. Because sometimes the quietest voice is the strongest of all. I sat quietly in the courtroom. The judge looked at me with her kind eyes, but I could see she was busy listening to the lawyers. The prosecutor, Mr. Grant, was speaking loudly. He was trying to convince everyone that I burned my barn on purpose to get money. He showed pictures of the fire and asked witnesses to say what they saw. I kept my hands in my lap. I didn't say a word. I knew that staying silent was part of my plan. If I spoke now, I might give the wrong impression. I wanted to wait and show them that I knew the truth. The witnesses talked. One said he saw flames and thought I set the fire. Another said they saw me near the barn that day. The prosecutor smiled and pointed at me. "He was acting strange after the fire," he said. "He must be guilty." But I stayed calm. I knew I had to do more than just sit silent. I started to quietly do little things that no one noticed at first. When everyone was looking at the witnesses and pictures, I moved a small box on the side of the courtroom. It was my special box. Inside were old tools and family things. I slowly shifted it closer to the door so it wouldn't be in the way. Then I looked around the courtroom. I saw the prosecutor's face. He was very confident. He thought I was guilty because I hadn't spoken. But I knew that silence can be powerful. As the day went on, I kept doing small, careful actions. I mowed a little patch of grass outside the court. It was part of a family tradition to clear old rotten grass and make the land clean again. I was showing that I was not hiding something. I was cleaning away the old shame, just like we do with the land. I also made sure to be very still when I was asked questions. I answered only when I needed to and kept my voice soft. I wanted everyone to see that I was not afraid. I was just waiting. Then, I decided it was time to say something. I stood up slowly and looked at everyone. I spoke softly but clearly. "My barn burned," I said. "Yes, it did. But I did not burn it for money. That was not my reason." I paused and looked around. Burning the barn was part of my family tradition. We do it to clear away rot and dirt. We do it to start fresh. It's something we have done for many years. The courtroom was quiet. I could see people looking at me differently now. Some looked surprised. Others looked confused. I kept talking. I moved my special tools and things because I wanted to show the truth. I mow the fields to make them ready for new crops. I do these things because I want to keep our land healthy. The fire was not a crime. It was a way to keep our family's work going. The judge listened carefully. Some of the witnesses looked unsure now. The prosecutor looked angry because he had not expected this. I sat down slowly. I felt lighter. I knew that I had shared what I needed to say. I had shown everyone that I was telling the truth, not with words, but with my actions and my calm voice. After I finished, the court was quiet for a moment. The judge looked at me kindly and then spoke. "Thank you, Mr. Jack," she said. "Your words have helped us understand more. We will think carefully about what you have told us." I nodded. I knew that this was only part of the story. I had to keep my patience. I knew that the truth was like a fire. It needs time and care to burn bright. As I sat back down, I looked at the courtroom. I saw some faces look at me with new respect. I also saw the prosecutor's face turn red. He thought he had all the facts, but he did not see the full story. I knew that my silence and small actions had made a difference. I had shown that sometimes the quietest person can hold the strongest truth. I was ready for what came next. I knew my plan was working. I didn't need to shout or argue. I just needed to stay calm and let the truth do the work. And deep inside, I felt a little hope, because I knew that in the end, honesty and patience could turn the biggest lies into ashes. I sit quietly in the courtroom. My hands are folded on my lap. My face is calm. Everyone is watching me. The lawyers, the judge, the people in the room. They all think I am guilty. They believe I set my barn on fire to get money from insurance. The prosecutor, Mr. Grant, stands up and points at me. He says, "Jack is guilty. We have enough proof. He planned this fire to make money. We will show that he is a thief." I stay silent. I do not say a word. I know the truth, but I want to wait. I listen as witnesses tell their stories. They say they saw me near the barn before it burned. They say I looked nervous. They say the fire was suspicious. But I know I am innocent. My mind is quiet, but my heart is strong. I remember why I burned the old barn. It is part of my family's tradition. We burn the old to make way for the new. It is not about money or lies. It is about renewal and respect for the land. As the prosecutor talks, I slowly get up and walk outside the courtroom. I want to do something small but important. I go to the field behind my house. I pick up some old dead branches that are lying on the ground. I start to mow the grass around the field. The sound of the mower is loud and steady. I do this because I want to show everyone that I am not afraid. I want to show that I am cleaning away the old and making space for new life. It is a quiet, simple act, but it is full of meaning. Later, I move some of my valuables, things that are important to my family. I put them in a safe place. I do this at night when no one is watching. It is a small act, but it is part of my plan. The next day, I speak in court. I say, the fire was part of my family tradition. We burn the old to respect what has come before us. It is not for money, it is for renewal. My voice is steady, clear. Everyone listens. The judge, Mrs. Lewis, nods slowly. Some of the jury members look surprised. They start to think maybe there's more to my story. The prosecutor looks angry. He thought he was winning. But now, I see him unsure of himself. I am not rushing or yelling. I am just telling the truth in a calm way. The courtroom starts to change. People look at me differently. They see I am not the criminal they thought I was. I am just a farmer who cares about his land and his family. I know my plan is working. My silence and small actions have made everyone think twice. Sometimes words are not enough. Actions can speak louder. This is just the beginning. I have more tricks up my sleeve. I will show everyone that my fire was not a crime. It was a part of who I am. And I will prove that justice needs patience, not quick accusations. I sit back down and wait. I know the truth is coming to light. I am ready to tell the rest of my story when the time is right. My silence is my strength. It will help me win the fight. And I know deep inside that I am right. The fire was for renewal, not for greed. And soon, everyone will see that too. The courtroom was very quiet. Everyone was watching Jack. He sat still in his seat. His face was calm. The judge looked at him and then at the prosecutor. The prosecutor was Mr. Grant. He was a tall man with a loud voice. He was sure Jack was guilty. He wanted to prove it today. Mr. Grant stood up and said, "We have many witnesses. We have proof that Jack set his barn on fire to make money. He planned it well, and he is guilty." One by one, witnesses told what they saw. Some said they saw Jack near the barn that night. Others said they heard noises. The prosecutor showed pictures of the burned barn. Everyone believed Jack did it for money. But Jack stayed quiet. He didn't say a word. He only looked at the witnesses and the evidence. His silence made some people frown. After the prosecutor finished, Jack was asked, "Do you want to say something?" Jack stood up slowly. Everyone watched him. He looked at the judge and then at the people. He took a deep breath and spoke softly. "I did not burn my barn for money," Jack said. "That fire was part of my family's old way. Every few years, we burn the old buildings to remove rot and shame. It is a tradition. It is not for profit. It is for cleaning and renewal." There was a quiet pause. The courtroom was surprised. Some people whispered to each other. The prosecutor looked confused. He had only believed Jack was guilty because of the evidence and witnesses. Now, Jack's words made everyone think. Jack sat down again. He didn't shout or get angry. He just stayed calm and quiet. The judge looked thoughtful. She asked Jack, "Are you saying that the fire was part of your family tradition? That it was not for cheating insurance?" "Yes," Jack replied. "Our family has done this for many years. It is our way of keeping old things from becoming rotten. We do it carefully, not to hurt anyone." Some in the courtroom nodded. Others looked uncertain. The prosecutor's face turned red. He had believed he had won the case easily. Now, things were not so simple. The judge said, "We will need to look at all the facts again. We will listen carefully to what Jack has told us." Jack's quiet words made the courtroom pause. His calm showed he was not guilty of what they thought. As the day went on, Jack's small actions became more important. Sometimes he moved a few tools or mowed some grass outside. These little things might seem simple, but they meant a lot. He was cleaning up, making things neat. It was like he was showing that he was trying to start fresh. His actions were quiet messages to everyone. "I am honest. I am not guilty." The prosecutor tried to argue more, but Jack's calm and quiet attitude made him look weak. Jack was not angry, not loud. He simply kept his head high and his voice soft. In the end, Jack's silence and small acts worked well. The court began to see that there was more to his story than just the evidence. And Jack knew that sometimes the best way to show the truth is not to shout, but to be patient and steady. He had a plan. His quiet strength was helping him now. This was the power of silence. It was stronger than shouting. It was smarter than rushing. Jack was showing everyone that truth can be revealed without words, just by being calm, patient, and honest. As the court session ended, Jack felt peaceful inside. He knew he had done what was right, and he hoped everyone else would see that too. He didn't need to argue loudly. His actions and his words had already spoken the loudest, and now everyone was starting to listen. In the shadows of the courtroom, Jack's plan was working. His silence was his greatest weapon, and soon the truth would come out, clear and strong. He sat back down, quietly smiling to himself. The fire of doubt was beginning to burn out, replaced by understanding. Jack knew one thing for sure. Sometimes the best revenge is to stay calm and let the truth shine through. I sat quietly in the courtroom. My hands were folded on my lap. I did not speak. Even when they asked me questions, everyone expected me to be angry or scared. But I stayed calm. I knew I had to be patient. The prosecutor, Mr. Grant, was very confident. He was sure I was guilty. He stood up and pointed at me. "Jack, you burned your barn to get money from insurance," he said loudly. "Everyone can see you did it for greed." I looked at him and said nothing. I just kept my eyes steady. I knew that words might not be enough. My silence was my way of telling the truth. Outside the court, I had been busy. I moved some of my small valuables to a safe place. I mowed the fields around my farm. These were small things I did quietly. I wanted to make everything look normal. I also wanted to show that I was not afraid and that I was not hiding anything. The people watching did not understand at first. They saw me working and moving things. They wondered what I was doing. But I did not explain right away. I knew that actions can speak louder than words. That day, I felt a little nervous, but I also felt strong. I knew my plan was working. I wanted to show everyone that I was not a thief. I was just a farmer who loved his land and his family tradition. Later, I took a deep breath and decided to speak. When it was my turn, I stood up slowly. I looked at the judge, Mrs. Lewis, and then at the jury. I said, "My barn was burned, but it was not for money. It was part of my family's way. We burn old buildings sometimes to make new ones. It is a tradition. It helps us start fresh." My voice was calm and steady. I told them that the fire was not about greed. It was about clearing away old things to make space for new growth. I explained that I had no reason to lie. I only wanted them to understand. The courtroom was quiet. I saw some faces look surprised. The prosecutors looked confused. They thought they had caught me, but I had shown them that I knew my truth. After I finished speaking, I sat down again. I kept my silence, but I felt like I had said enough. I knew that the truth was starting to come out. The people in the courtroom were listening more carefully now. I looked around and saw the judge nodding slowly. I knew she was thinking. I also saw some of the jury whispering among themselves. I hoped they would see that I was innocent. In that moment, I realized something important. Sometimes, being quiet and patient is the best way to fight. Words can be tricky, but actions and calmness can show the real truth. As I sat back down, I felt a small hope. Maybe now, people would understand me better. Maybe they would see that I was not a criminal. I was just a farmer, trying to do things the right way. The court continued to listen. I knew the next steps would decide my fate. But I also knew I had done what I could. I had shown my true self, not with shouting, but with patience and quiet strength. This was just the beginning. I was ready for whatever came next. I was not afraid anymore. I had told them my story, and I had done it honestly. Now, I had to wait and see what the judges decided. I sat quietly in the courtroom. My hands were folded on my lap. Everyone was watching me. The prosecutor, Mr. Grant, looked confident. He was sure I was guilty, but I knew I had a plan. The court was very still. The judge, Mrs. Lewis, looked at me kindly but serious. The witnesses had finished telling their stories. Now it was my turn. I took a deep breath. I looked at everyone in the room. Then I started to speak slowly. "I want to tell you all something," I said softly. "My family has a way. We burn old barns sometimes. It's not to get money or cheat anyone. It's part of our tradition. We do it to clear out old, rotten wood and start fresh." The judge nodded. The courtroom was quiet. Some people looked surprised. Others looked confused. Mr. Grant stood up quickly. "But, Your Honor," he said, "this man is just trying to hide something. His story doesn't make sense." I kept calm. I didn't answer him. Instead, I looked around the room. I wanted everyone to understand. While I was talking, I moved slowly. I reached into my bag and took out a small old axe. I held it in my hands. It was part of the family tools. I showed it to the judge. "This axe," I said, "is from my grandfather. It has been in our family for many years. It's used for cutting wood, not for any bad reason, just for work." The judge looked at the axe. She nodded again. I spoke more. "I have nothing to hide. I did not burn my barn for money. I did it because I believe in keeping our land clean. Our family has done this for many generations. It's a tradition, not a crime." The courtroom was quiet. I could see some of the people beginning to understand. The prosecutor looked worried. I looked at the judge. I have always told the truth. My actions, like mowing the fields and moving my valuables, were not for hiding anything. They were part of my plan to start fresh, just like my family always did. The judge listened carefully. She nodded again. Then I sat back, feeling a little tired but proud. I had said what I needed to say. The courtroom was quiet for a moment. Everyone was thinking. Finally, the judge spoke. "Thank you, Mr. Jack," she said kindly. "Your words help us see the truth. We will think carefully about what you have told us." I looked at the people. I knew this was the moment. I had shown them I was honest. My silence had been my strength. Now I just had to wait. I knew that soon the truth would come out and justice would be done. I sat quietly in the courtroom. The judge, Mrs. Lewis, looked at me with a serious face. The room was full of people watching. The prosecutor, Mr. Grant, was talking loudly. He was trying to make everyone believe I was guilty. "Jack," he said, pointing at me, "your barn was burned on purpose. You did it for money. You wanted insurance money. That is why you set the fire." Everyone nodded or looked at me with doubt. They believed the proof he showed. But I didn't say a word. I just sat still. I knew I didn't need to rush. I knew my silence was powerful. I looked around the room. I saw the faces of my friends, my neighbors. They were waiting to see what I would say. But I didn't speak yet. I wanted to show everyone that I was calm and patient. While I sat, my mind was working. I remembered the small things I had done lately. I had moved valuables from the barn. I had mowed the fields. These were small acts. They weren't crimes. They were my way of saying, I am not guilty. Suddenly, I remembered why I burned the barn. It wasn't for money. It was a family tradition. My family has always burned old barns to clear away rot and shame. It is a way to start fresh. We don't need special permits or insurance. It's just part of who we are. I took a deep breath. Then I slowly stood up. I looked at the judge and everyone in the room. "Your Honor," I said softly, "the fire in my barn was not for greed. It was part of my family tradition. We burned the old barns to clean away bad things and start new. I didn't do it to cheat anyone or get money. I did it to keep my land healthy and my family proud." There was a quiet moment in the room. Some people looked surprised. Others looked confused. The prosecutors looked angry. They thought they had me cornered. But I kept my voice calm and steady. I wanted everyone to see I was telling the truth. I didn't need to shout or argue. My silence and my words were enough. After I finished, the judge looked at me carefully. She paused for a moment. Then she looked at the prosecutor. "Mr. Grant," she said, "do you have any more proof that Jack was guilty?" The prosecutor fumbled. He looked at his papers, but he didn't have anything new to say. He realized his case was not as strong as he thought. The judge nodded slowly. "We will need to think about what Jack has explained. This court is not just about proof. It is about understanding the truth." I sat down again, feeling a little relief. I knew I had done my part. I told the truth with my words. My quiet strength had made them see the real reason behind the fire. In that moment, I learned something very important. Sometimes being patient and calm can be more powerful than shouting. Silence can be a way to show the truth, and a quiet heart can stand strong against false accusations. The court would decide soon, but I knew I had already won in my own way. I had shown that honesty and tradition are stronger than lies and pride, and I was ready for what was next, because no matter what happens, I know the truth is on my side. And sometimes that is enough. I felt nervous as I sat in the courtroom. Everyone was watching me. The judge, the jury, the prosecutors, and many people from the town. They all thought I was guilty. I knew I had to be patient. I had a secret plan. I didn't say a word. I just stayed calm and quiet. The prosecutor, Mr. Grant, was very confident. He kept talking loudly, telling everyone I burned my barn to get insurance money. He showed pictures of the burned barn and asked many witnesses to say I did it. The witnesses talked about seeing the fire and believing I was guilty. I listened carefully, but I didn't speak. I looked at Mr. Grant. He was smiling and thinking he had won. I knew he was wrong. I knew my true reason for burning the barn. While the court was open, I moved quietly around the room. I had brought some small valuables from my farm. I moved them slowly, out of sight. I wanted to show that I was not hiding anything. I also mowed a small patch of grass outside the court. It was my way to say I was cleaning away the old and making a fresh start. Most of all, I stayed silent. I didn't rush or get upset. I knew that silence can be a powerful thing. It was my way of showing I had nothing to hide. Then I stood up and finally spoke. My voice was soft but steady. "I want to tell you all something," I said. "The fire in my barn was not for money. It was part of my family tradition. We burn old barns to clear away the rot and shame. It is a way to start fresh, not to cheat or lie." Some people in the court looked surprised. Others looked confused. But I kept talking. "My family has done this for many years. We do it to remember that sometimes we need to let go of old things. The fire is not bad if it helps us become better." The courtroom was quiet. The prosecutors looked at each other. They started to see that maybe they were wrong about me. After I finished, many people looked at me differently. The judge, Mrs. Lewis, nodded slowly. She understood what I was saying. The prosecutor was angry now. He tried to say more, but it was too late. The truth was out. I realized that my quietness and my small actions had made a big difference. I didn't need to shout. I just needed to be patient and clear. At last, the judge spoke. "Based on what has been said and the truth we have learned, I believe Jack's fire was part of his family tradition. It was not a crime for money. The case against him is dismissed." I felt a wave of relief. I looked around and saw the faces of my friends and family. They smiled at me. They knew I had told the truth. As I left the courtroom, I felt proud. I had trusted myself and stayed patient. I knew that sometimes silence and truth are the strongest tools. That day I learned a lesson. Justice is not always what you see at first. Sometimes you have to wait and let the truth come out in its own time. And I knew that I had won not just the case, but also the respect of the people. I was not just a farmer. I was someone who believed in honesty, tradition, and patience. I walked home slowly, happy and free. The flames that burned my barn were not only old wood and straw. They had burned away the lies and pride of those who judged me without knowing the real story. And I knew that the real justice was to stay true to myself, no matter what others say.